We have a lot of special guests here in our audience today because we are going to take this very special moment and pause. And we're not going to just blow through this day like so many days that are upon us are approached. We're going to actually pause because yesterday marks the 2-year anniversary of a day that I never thought I would experience when we closed schools for what was 2 weeks that has now become 2 years. We're going to take a minute, reflect as a community, reflect and celebrate those in our community that came together to lift up our school system and really just take this moment to recognize there really could have been no better place to be than Henry. Judy, are we ready to roll our reflection? It is on the top of all of our minds to share with the public the impact that the coronavirus 19 is having on our school system, our state, our region, and country, and to provide you insight into the preparations of this community of schools.
Nearly 2 years to the date, we experienced something none of us could fully imagine. On March 13th, 2020, everything changed in our state, in our country, and in Henry County schools. We were all struggling to understand the nature of this devastating virus that was changing everything about our daily lives. COVID-19 quickly rose to the levels of a global pandemic, consuming all corners of our world, including our thriving community here in Henry County. The places that have always been known as safe havens for young people, our school buildings, would be shuttered, and the basic manner in which we educate kids would be radically altered to keep everyone safe and make certain that learning was still possible. In just 72 hours, classrooms could be moved to kitchen tables, living rooms, garages, and basements, and traditional school supplies would be replaced by digital resources. Faced with these challenges, the employees of Henry County Schools, our teachers, support staff, school leaders, and district officials rallied to ensure that the momentum realized through student achievement increases over the past few years could be carried forth into what was initially thought to be a small moment in time. That small moment stretched into 24 months, and in that time, the mantra of better together proved itself true as everyone moved to help our students through this once-in-a-lifetime event. Virtual meetings, curbside meal pickups, and digital-based content delivery became the norm, and no one was going to allow a student's needs to go unmet. Led by the Board of Education and strengthened by the resolve of our community, our school district remained focused on our most important resources, our employees and our students. Impassioned outreach from community partners, coupled with dedicated employees going beyond the call of duty, helped us to battle the challenges of COVID-19. We also relied on the wisdom of our healthcare community and countless others, all to ensure that we were making a quality public education accessible to all students. When it seemed like key moments in time would inevitably be missed due to the challenges incurred to protect a vulnerable population, the community spirit held strong, and our students would not be denied the traditional, special occasions that serve as memory markers when we think of our youth. Graduations were held as the capstone of a year inspired by our collective resilience. And just when we thought we were rounding the corner, COVID-19 dealt us another blow. We experienced heartache with the delayed start of school, the loss of colleagues and family members, the ever-changing ebb and flow of highs and lows of COVID-19 cases. Yet we pulled through, thanks to hope from an available vaccine and a community spirit focused on bringing everyone back together, stronger and healthier than ever. And as if those moments weren't big enough, the community pulled through once again to top it all off with the development of a new 5-year strategic plan. This plan is reflective of everyone's voice, our entire community, their hopes, dreams, and aspirations poured into this plan that will provide the opportunities, access, and outcomes our students deserve. And despite some of the toughest times that any of us will ever face, they gave hope and vision to a brighter tomorrow. When history looks back on this time in our world, all of Henry County can reflect back with pride for the incredible determination that was exercised on behalf of a brighter future for our students. Together we overcame. Together we celebrated. Together we grew stronger, all proving that in the end, anything is possible because we are better together.
I remember exactly a year ago when Amy Rivers sat in a conference room with me, and we discussed this thing that might be coming around the corner called a worldwide pandemic. We started cranking out some messages. Tracy Blackburn joined the room. Gabe Creary was asked to build an FAQ on something we didn't even know what the questions were. It all sounds so novice and trivial at this point in time, but it was actually amazing. Look how far we've come. We invented remote learning in 72 hours. We launched it from every home in our community in a matter of minutes. Our spirits were actually pretty high in the beginning. I don't know about you, but I thought we were getting a break from the grind. I remember making a home project list and thought I was going to get all these things done while I didn't have to get over to an office and out into schools every day. I actually remember thinking, well, good grief, spring break is just 2 weeks away, so surely we'll be able to get back to business right after that. Well, of course, those 2 days of a weekend and then 2 weeks turned into 2 months. I never thought it would be harder to do anything than close school that first year. Those 2 weeks turning into 2 months were full of fears, uncertainties, delays, postponements, and like I said, I thought ending the school year would be the hardest task we'd ever have to pull off. Somehow, our teachers kept teaching, our principals kept leading, our school nutrition team and our custodial partners went to work every single day from day one. Absolutely unbelievable. And it was in that very early weeks that an organization called Operation Lunchbox, led by Dave Newman, actually raised its quiet hand and took a gigantic leap of faith to partner with us to provide home delivery for any child who needed a meal delivered. It seemed simple at the time. Dave would go ahead and have his organization take our spring breaks and provide that curbside service so that our school lunch employees would get a break. Well, little did we know that Dave Newman, that very first friend to our community in this COVID moment, was faithful every step along the way. And yes, I'm going to annoyingly stop and recognize each person. So Dave, can you stand so we can thank you for your faithful friendship? For 2 weeks to 2 months, I thought the graduating class of 2020 would be a triumph. When I sat there for the last graduation at Atlanta Motor Speedway, who, by the way, would have ever thought that they would be in the graduating kids business, I thought it was it. We had persevered, we had made it. We had a facilities and maintenance team who completely reconstructed its purpose in our organization, and we set our sights on a new school year with an intent to start on time and in person because we know the value of learning in community and we know the purpose of community for kids and our employees. But it was that late July board meeting that brought me to tears when we announced that a decision had been made to delay the start of school and start remotely. I'll never forget how embarrassed I was to cry publicly in a board meeting, but little did I know it wouldn't be the last time. I wish I could tell you it was the only time I was brought to tears over the past 2 years, but that just wasn't the case. This executive team right here who sits in front of you, we allowed ourselves to feel the gravity of what we were doing, to feel the pain, the loss, the discouragement, and the fear of a completely uncertain time. And as the superintendent, I felt the weight of every single person's family, every single business owner's livelihood, every employee's exhaustion, and every student's heartbreak, heartache, and trauma. But there was always hope. My faith was strengthened beyond anything I could have imagined. And I was surrounded with consistency by faith leaders in our community who prayed with me, who prayed for me, who prayed for this Board of Education, for this executive team, for every employee, for every student, and for every family. And so today, I want to recognize our faith leaders who never let one day go undedicated to a prayerful commitment to the decisions we had to make and the stakes that were upon us. I want to thank Pastor McBride and ask you to stand, and thank you for being here today. I, of course, want... Pastor McBride knows that I listen to the prayer he left on my voicemail pretty much 1,000 times a day. Of course, it is with great sorrow and heartache that I recognize the late Pastor Spence, who was a personal friend and a tremendous comrade in the hardest of days. And now Pastor O'Neill, his wife, from Global Impact, who continues to serve this community with all of their heart and faithfulness. Pastor Turner of Turning Point Church, who couldn't be with us today, Pastor Statham from Salem Baptist, and Pastor Dockweiler, who I think all of us receive emails from on a regular basis, and so many more in our faith community. I really want to thank you for your dedication and recognition of what we had the opportunity to do together. Oh, and Pastor O'Neill, you're here, so please stand so we can recognize you and Pastor Spence. I mean, when I look and see you in person, it is just, I can't, I'm sorry, but the moment is so real that 2 years ago, I would have never believed we would have walked through the depths of despair like we have and be able to hold hands on the other side. It was really, as we headed into the fall of 2020, we became one of the first districts to open our schools, and it was a medical team that assisted our COVID mitigation techniques and provided us guidance. Dr. Pulliam and Dr. Ratmeyer, pediatricians in our community, were with us every step along the way, coupled with absolutely daily calls to Dr. Watkins, our chief medical officer at Piedmont Henry, and Xavier Crockett, our epidemiologist at DPH, were our lifelines. Dr. Watkins and Xavier Crockett are both here today. We would love for you to stand. I met Xavier in person for the first time today, and we are like old friends. When I tell you 5 a.m. phone calls, 11 p.m. phone calls, the one time that a message went out at 11 o'clock at night to our community, Xavier Crockett was the one on the phone with me. There was not one decision that we made without the two of them, and we worked through every implication and every detail every single time the conditions were changing. We went through the darkest lows and experienced some extraordinary highs. It was actually 1 year ago this week. Can you remember that time, like March of 2021? We were actually being visited by our advanced accreditation agency. And because we had time for that, we actually ended up with the best advanced accreditation report in school system history with the highest accreditation marks, while at the same time in that same week passed an ESPLOS referendum with 68% approval from our voters for an ambitious capital improvement project that has students at the center, while taking on the small task of being the only district in the state of Georgia to have a closed pod vaccination site vaccinating nearly 3,000 of our employees and educators in this community, all in a week's time. But of course, between our vaccination education, which was provided by Piedmont Henry executives, our very own nurses vaccinating our employees, and our DPH and Piedmont Henry executives inspecting our vaccination plans, and Moy's Pharmacy swooping in as our pharmacy partner, we did what no district in Georgia and very few in this country pulled off. It was amazing. And it was amazing because of our nurses, led by Amy Rivers, who are all here today, and we need you to stand to give you our love, our hugs, and our celebration. This isn't in my script, but I do remember when Dr. Watkins was training our nurses virtually on giving vaccination, and he's so calm and cool, like, this is no big deal. And our nurses are like, I'm sorry, what are we going to do now? 3,000 cars are going to roll through a parking lot that has never once yet been constructed for any health service provided before. This is going to be interesting. But honestly, it became like a festival feeling. And I had a visual of this dogwood tree that I almost had the picture included in my remarks that was unbloomed on the first day of that vaccination site. And every day I stood with Dr. Crump at the very top of the hill, and by the end that dogwood tree had bloomed. And it was a symbol of hope to me. And I know our nurses did something they never thought they would have signed up to do. And we are so thankful to you. It is why today we have a 93% vaccinated workforce, and we believe you are heroic, and we love you and honor you today. Thank you for your incredible role in these past 2 years. Every phone call you made for contact tracing and every medical assessment that you provided, you didn't have to react so publicly about that. And of course, every vaccination was on top of the typical health needs you maintained for our community of students. So the ending of one year and the start of the next required a development of a massive virtual school and the return of nearly 97% of our students to on-campus learning this very school year that we are in. We honestly thought our worst days were ahead. I don't know about you, but I even thought we got a little bit of a summer weekend in that felt a little bit normal last summer. But just 3 days into the school year, the Delta surge hit us so fast and so furiously, and we had to accelerate our mitigation and change our school operations in an instant. The jolt was frustrating, it was disappointing, and we had to navigate all of this yet again. We jumped from one surge to the next surge, all the while still believing that the best possible place for students was in schools, and recognizing that schools were not the catalyst for these surges. Actually, schools were and continue to be the healthiest public place anyone can be. But our teachers, our support professionals, including bus drivers, food nutrition staff, counselors, social workers, and our principals, every single person left every ounce of energy and effort into their work every single day to pull it off. I want to take a moment and ask all of the teachers, support professionals, and principals that are here today to stand so we can recognize you and all 6,000 employees for resiliency, optimism, and strength. You carried our community. I know every day you left thinking there's no way I could work harder, and yet the next day called for you to do so. And you deserve to be honored and celebrated as heroes. And our families, you trusted, you turned with the changes. You attended to virtual town halls and learned everything you could about how to support your child. And you became a permanent extension of classrooms in ways you could have never imagined. There are some families here today. We want to thank you for the way that you stayed right by our side in order to do this together as a community. And if you could stand, we would love to recognize the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the cousins, the uncles that are in the room that made an extension of the classroom possible. I see some families in the room. I mean, I was one of those families. You should have seen my children raising themselves with Skittles and Twinkies. That's just how it started to roll. And when the paint was dripping off of everybody's hands and face one day, I thought, this is really going to require a little extra attention. So I know I could go on, but you probably want me to wrap up. This will be the longest welcome in history. But we also had a daily COVID-19 response team. And while I believe that every single employee in this organization poured out their heart and soul, I know it is this team of individuals who literally worked 24 hours a day, every weekend, every holiday, every Christmas, every spring break, and every summer to examine every positive case, every fragile situation, and create response to every changing condition. They were an example of excellence in synchronization in executive leadership. Their entire work was led by Jessica Stormer. And I want to take a moment and recognize the nucleus of our response plan and ask Jessica to stand first before I recognize the entire team. And Jessica truly is owed 2 years of sleep. But there is also a team that every single day started our day together on a virtual call, no matter where we were in the world, making sure that we did not miss a moment to be as agile as possible. And I would love for the COVID-19 daily response team to stand and let you know how much I value starting my day every day with you. Go ahead and stand to our COVID-19 response team. This is it right here. This is the team that knows every positive case, every close contact, every implication, every classroom closed, every teacher out, every fragile situation, every phone call to be made. They know absolutely everything about absolutely everything because we were not going to let one moment go without our 110% dedicated attention to keeping our community as healthy and well as possible and moving forward. And could you imagine during this time being responsible for communications? Could you imagine during this time being responsible for communications with me? Of course, I have to recognize J.D. Harden, who writes down everything that has to be said and gets it out to every community. And everyone used to love to hear his voice because it was the voice of snow days. And now it is the voice of everything. I would love to recognize J.D. for your role in everything you did to make the past 2 years communicated publicly. And I have to, at the same time, recognize David Birch, who's acting photographer over there right now. Everything that got on the website, every video created, every informational session, that great video that showed what going back to school would look like. Every time anything was produced and delivered digitally, it was David Birch and his team behind the scenes making that possible. And I'll tell you what, creative people like a minute. They like a minute to get it right. But COVID didn't give us minutes. We had to communicate new information at rapid fire pace. And so I believe that nobody has had to work faster and longer than any other team than our communications team behind this this entire time. And so to JD and David and the entire communications team, you never stop finding the words and crafting the format to communicate broadly to our community. And I want to thank you for that. And it was everywhere. Facilities and maintenance were transformed to a team that got schools ready to be open and set up vaccination sites. It was teaching and learning that reinvented education in and out of every season, doing billions and billions of PD sessions on the fly. Food and nutrition, who reinvented an 100-year-old system into curbside pickup that has now been going for 2 years. Technology resolved more technical questions than there are stars in the sky. And human resources kept the personal in their work and provided individual counsel for every employee every step along the way. And finance caught the changing demands, changing revenue structures, and changing conditions and kept us financially stable and actually stronger. And Dr. Knowlton, Dr. Madden, and Mr. Shrum undoubtedly played the most crucial role as the executive team as they activated in ways that we had never imagined could be called upon. I would love to honor the daily COVID-19 response team that was led by Jessica and this extraordinary group of people, but to also let you know that every single day that we learned of someone struggling with this horrible thing called COVID, we cried together, we had moments of silence together. We never stopped recognizing that this was not easy. These were not numbers. This was our family, our community. It's the place we call home. And for our Board of Education, I've had the distinct and unique honor of working alongside a governance team that never for 1 second lost sight of our young people and their learning. They have wanted our employees to be healthy and well, and they've wanted our schools to be safe and positive environments. They have invested in resources and tools for students as they navigate this unusual and unprecedented time. They have put into action high expectations for accountability for kids, for their learning, despite the complexities of our circumstances. And this board's unified governance model and laser focus on student learning was a stabilizing force that really carried the school district and carried our community. From 2 weeks to 2 years, our world has changed, our young people have changed, Our families have changed, and we have changed. But we're better. We're stronger. This is a story of a community with resiliency. This is a story that we share forever. We needed each other, and we worked with one another. And we're united because throughout this pandemic, we actually stood shoulder to shoulder in and out of every high and every low on behalf of kids and an entire community. Would all of our special guests stand so that I can recognize you as the giants that carried Henry County? Go ahead, all of our special guests, that's you. All of our special guests. Our nurses, our COVID-19 response team, our pastors, medical professionals, our teachers, our principals, our families. So you know I have a little thing. When someone has a game-changing performance, I recognize them with a game ball. I also use it to educate people on field hockey since it's not common here in Georgia, and this is a field hockey ball. And so for each of our special guests that were invited here to be celebrated and recognized today, there's a game ball waiting for you as you leave this room at the end of my welcome, because we're going to let you get out of here. And it just says, from 2 weeks to 2 years, we stood shoulder to shoulder together. Thank you. I'm thankful for you. And before I conclude, I have to finally acknowledge our students. Our students persevered. Our students brought us light, joy, energy, and the reason we've done what we've done. Our students are strong and they're resilient, and they are our reason. And if you're a student in this room, we would love for you to stand, because we know that you represent 43,000 other young people who have been on our hearts, in our minds, and carried on our shoulders. All right, to our students, you're our last celebration. Okay, so I'm going to round out this welcome, and in case you don't know, I can't let special moments just fly by. This was meaningful because it was our community. It was meaningful because you are our community, and I want to thank you for making school a priority in the work that you do, even if your daily responsibilities don't have education in the title. So as part of my welcome, I'm going to introduce my advisory presidents, who are a combination of some of the people we recognized just now. And Judy, you have a slide of those presidents, I think, that are here today. So let me make sure I start with, let's see, I think you have a slide? Okay, there we go. So if each of our advisory presidents who are here today could stand and be recognized. These are the members of the teams that I meet with daily. And you can see on here the high school student, if you could raise your hand, from Eagles Landing High School. Our middle school advisory president from Impact Academy. Our elementary school president from Woodland. And we have, I believe, two of our teacher advisory presidents, Ms. Gonzalez from Woodland Elementary School, and our teacher of the year from Hampton Middle School, serving as the teacher advisory presidents. And we have our school council, our staff advisory, and our principal presidents here today. This is the team that creates the information and the way that we can work to solve problems together. And y'all have already started off with a remarkable season, and you can be seated. Thank you for being here today. So as I conclude my welcome today, I want to thank you for being here. I do want to transition back to the chair and also invite those of you who have been here for special recognition to exit out the back door so you can get your game ball and be greeted in the lobby by our team. Thank you for being here, and Madam Chair, I will turn that back over to you.
Thank you. Just one moment, if you'll give me just one moment. I'm so sorry. I really could not let this moment pass. Thank you for that powerful and just meaningful and really emotional welcome. I really could not let this moment pass without recognizing someone who literally brought our entire community together. Dr. Davis, as you all know, has worked tirelessly to just ensure that our students did not miss a moment during COVID. As challenging as it was, as she also deserves 2 years of sleep, just as Jessica does, maybe 3 years. She took a moment to recognize everyone else, but she really was at the center of coordinating all of this on behalf of our students. And that was not lost on me. I'm sure it was not lost on you. But I really could not move on in the meeting without just taking a moment to just appreciate and recognize her strong and unwavering support and leadership during this unprecedented season. So if you could let's take a moment and just recognize Dr. Davis.
That's the last time I turn it back over to you.
Okay, sorry to keep you a couple minutes more, but yes.
Now we'll let them leave.
Yes, please feel free. If you need to go, please feel free to take this opportunity to do that. Thank you all for being here, and thank you. As she recognized each and every one of you, I want to personally just express my gratitude to each of you and the significant role that you played in our schools during COVID. So at this time, if I can get myself together, we will move on in our agenda.